Yeah. You got me?
Yep. All right. We'll kick things off with John. Go for it.
Coach, what do you make of the difference between the first and the second halves there?
Yeah, we would obviously have liked to have seen the game out with a little bit more authority, the authority that I think that the first half suggested that we might have in the second half. But I'm not going to take too much away from the players in that sense because I feel like um, we've gone 2-0 up at a very difficult place to play against a team that is really fighting for points and has come off the back of a really difficult result last week and had to throw everything at it. And I think that was reflected in the way they made subs, the risk they took in terms of how they set up, and that it caused us some problems in terms of how assertive we could be in the second half for sure. But I felt like the goal aside, we showed a real level of resilience, of discipline, of willingness to stick to a game plan, and I think it's a really big win because coming here is tough. You guys will appreciate the conditions aren't easy. They're very accustomed to playing on a very small pitch. They play in a way which makes life very difficult for you on the ball. They're one of the more aggressive pressing teams in the league. Their counter pressure is very good, and the pitch certainly feeds that. So I feel like we had some difficulties on the ball in comparison to last week's game, as an example, and probably the week before. But I felt we played the game in a way in which we needed to play the game, and that was ultimately successful for us. So I was really pleased.
Eric, I imagine some of that is inevitable that you're going to be on the back foot when you have a two-goal lead, but what would you like to see differently and how you guys see it out?
I think we again it's an age old story for us. We're such a threat on the counter attack that our tendency is to try and counter attack at almost every opportunity. And it's an endless topic of conversation for us, and it's not just me who sets the direction of what we do. We have very open and honest conversations with the players. We of course want to play in a way that skews itself toward using the open spaces that we create in the way in which we defend. But I felt like in the way in which we did against Salt Lake last week, strike that balance between staying on the ball for long enough at the point at which we couldn't counter attack to keep the team connected to position our wing backs where we want them through connecting consecutive passes. And today, I think the temptation, based on how the first half went and some of the I suppose the feel that was involved in the game, the way in which the players felt they could get some success, we attacked really, really quickly. And the downside of that was when we weren't successful, we turned the ball over quick and we find ourselves defending for longer periods than we'd like. But the upside of that was we created some huge chances. So of course, we make that choice in terms of how we set the team up, the messages we give the players, the messages that we arrive at as a group, and obviously we're really well suited to attacking in big open spaces. So we want to make sure we create those and use it well. And it's going to be, I'm sure, a topic of conversation in every single one of these press conferences as to how well we were able to strike that balance. But ultimately, the style is incredibly difficult to play against players executing at a really high level. And I think when we need to come away from home and play on a small pitch, it's very difficult to play on and win a game in a certain way. Then we've shown the capacity to do that. So I'm really pleased that we were able to show that pragmatism, and it's a huge 3 points on the road. And I would say, in the same way that I said to the players, that shouldn't be underestimated. It's very difficult to come here. The home record is very good over multiple seasons for a reason. So I think it's a real feather in the cap for everyone involved there.
On sort of the flip side, what does it feel like as a manager when your teams come out and played so well that you force the opposition manager into making changes before the first half is up?
Yeah, I don't sort of consider it from that perspective. The only perspective I considered the first half from was the execution of the game plan and the level of detail that we showed to get to the point that we got to. And again, it was I suppose a continuation of a theme so far. We've started games really, really well when the players come out of the dressing room with game plan fresh in their mind, a real willingness to execute, a real sharpness in how they execute. We've started almost every game really, really well so far. So I was so pleased in that sense, but also we certainly have the scars of the Galaxy game and the Kansas game, and we're living with those. And we in some senses have righted one or two of those wrongs with the way we've closed the last couple of games out. But they were the perspectives that I'm thinking from: satisfaction with the performance, satisfaction with how the players executed the game plan, and then making sure that we don't get complacent, making sure that we're able to see the game out well.
Eric, what was the process to play the short corner like that, and how did you guys determine Will to be on the end of it?
Yeah, we obviously put a lot of energy into those situations, and without giving the detail away, we within a certain setup have multiple options available to the players, and we give them lots of liberty to play the situations as they see fit. And I think so far across the 7 games so far, we're in a really good place when it comes to the danger we can cause teams in almost every set play situation, and that was certainly the case tonight.
Will Trapp has never had more than 3 shots on target in a single season in MLS. What got into him today?
Yeah, I know. It's a topic of conversation between me and him, don't you worry. But I think the fact tonight that he was so dialed in, so precise in that moment, and then obviously showed some real quality from the top of the box in a couple of moments that followed was really pleasing. And he's obviously added that to a really strong defensive performance, and certainly that level of discipline and willingness that the group showed was embodied by Will for sure.
Jamie Watson on the broadcast said that Alonso Martinez has gone to his right in the last couple of PKs. It looked like he was going to his right again, and Dana guessed right. Was that the information you guys had, that was a tendency of his?
Yeah, I wouldn't know the detail, but I would expect that we would have been on top of that for sure. And I think obviously we're very diligent with the details behind most situations, and I would be amazed if that wasn't the case today.
We saw your team take a number of shots from outside the penalty area. Is that sort of the equivalent of taking a lot of really long 3-pointers in basketball? Like, what do you tell guys to recycle the ball, or what do you want to see?
No, we are big on the quality of chances we create, and I think it's no surprise that over the course of the first 6 games, I don't know how things look after game 7, but we obviously have created a lot of very high value opportunities this year, and we're a team that attacks in a very efficient way in that sense. And I think probably the factor that restricts you here is the width of the pitch, which I think does really influence the way in which the game's played. There aren't quite the spaces that you would normally find yourself with around the edge of the box to maybe progress beyond that line, and I think that's that probably molds the game to be played in a certain way, and I think you probably saw that from both teams today. But certainly in terms of really big chances, we were certainly the better side in that sense.
Was there anything new or different in Joaquin's play, or is he just continuing the same hot streak that he's
on? He did great, and I think he probably represents what we are striving for in certain moments of the game when we regain the ball, and he really often now shows that balance between taking the space in behind when it's on to do so and connecting well with Tani and Kelvin, but also he shows that level of calmness and composure to make sure that only on occasion tonight, but certainly more than most, I would say, that we can connect some passes and we can reorganize in more general play with the ball. So I think he's evolved hugely in his time with us here. He's a very complete player now, I would say, and you've seen a performance tonight which, of course, was very dogged. He showed real aggression. He showed a real willingness to stick to a game plan and a level of discipline and to hard running. But he also had some great moments on the ball, and that's what we expected him, because he's a good player.
Time for a couple more.
You mentioned calmness and composure. Do you feel like Carlos Harvey is increasing his calmness and composure as the season goes along?
Yeah, and we're going to rely on Carlos as the season goes on in a number of different positions. Now, I'm sure you've obviously noticed his involvement in the middle midfield today, and that's the position that he came to the club in, and we've obviously converted him into a very, very capable outside centre back here, and for sure he'll continue to play there as the season goes on. But with the injuries that we've had in the middle over the course of the last couple of weeks, then certainly Carlos becomes a player that we'll look to play in the middle. And if he plays in the middle, he's going to have to show that level of composure under some slightly different pressure and tension than he would do if he's playing deep and got the whole game in front of him. So it'll be interesting to see how he evolves for sure.
Scoring 59 seconds into a game, I imagine, is a dream. What was kind of the highlights or the biggest things to make that successful?
Yeah, we make a big point about starting a game well. We start games in a very detailed, purposeful, intentional way. And I think when you probably watch back the entirety of the minute that leads up to that, it will be to an extent, it will be based on a lot of work and a lot of intentionality when it comes to how we start games and the level of aggression, attention to detail, intensity, and it was exactly what we would want. And we make a huge point about starting games well, and I think that's been reflected in most games so far, as I've said. So we set the course for a really good 45 minutes that followed, and a very dogged, gritty, determined 45 minutes to close the game out.
Last one from John.
We saw Nicholas Romero and Jefferson Diaz keep their places in the starting lineup. What was your thinking behind keeping those two in there?
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring Boxy back into the team. I didn't want to compromise too much of the stability that we had on the back of the Salt Lake game. So, of course, those two guys did really, really well. I think Nico is really finding his feet now, and he's shown tonight what a good player he is in both senses, but particularly in terms of his willingness to defend the box and the level of aggression, the level of intuition that he showed in defending some of those situations. And I think uh, that's what I saw when I did my research on him before him coming here. He's a real box defender. He thrives in those situations, but he's also got real quality on the ball. And albeit we didn't find loads and loads of situations in which he was able to show that tonight, I think over the course of his start so far, he's put in some really solid performances. I'm really pleased with where he is, but also the level of competition we've got. And I would say I think everyone would look at Jeff and be really happy with him and happy for him with how he's bounced back after what happened at Kansas, and he's followed that up with a number of really good performances, and tonight was no different.
All right, that'll do it for Coach. Safe travels and congratulations. We'll see you back in Minnesota.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
All right, Michael Boxall should be up in a few moments here. Hello, Michael. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. You've got John Marthar and Andy Greeter here. We'll get started with Andy this time. Andy, whenever you're ready.
Boxy, Eric was talking about the intentionality that you guys have to start games. Where did that kind of come out and show itself to set up Taney's goal?
I mean, we've shown how dangerous we can be breaking from that low block, and I think that was like pretty textbook, and obviously a great start. But then it kind of knows that kind of puts us in the defending the lead mindset, and it's obviously an early goal is it was second or third minute. It's still got a lot of the game to finish out, but yeah, obviously our emphasis on how we defend with 11 players is still ringing true, and everyone's staying honest to our identity. And I mean, when you've got Joe playing well like that, Joaquin's been really good, and then Calvin and Tanya a electric handful for any center back pair to handle.
Did defending the lead in the second half maybe feel a little more comfortable than it looked from the outside?
I'm not sure. Depends how uncomfortable it. I mean, there are moments where they've obviously got some pretty crafty players in that final third who were trying to thread a few needles, but honestly, Jeff and Nico were animals today. They got on the end of everything, and we're always in the right spot at the right time. But I wouldn't say it was comfortable. We were hanging on a little bit, but I think we're comfortable when we kind of enjoy the struggle a bit.
What's the banter in the locker room when Will scores from outside the 18?
I said that there was going to be the dubious goals committee were gonna take it away as an own goal or something. So, but no, I mean, no, obviously wasn't something we precisely worked out on the training pitch, but obviously when you've got good players on the ball who are alert to those situations, and happy for them to. I think me and will trap a race to 20 goals this year.
Sorry. What you had another different center back pairing with the three of you back there. What's it like to play between Romero and Diaz, and how do you try to help them out?
I mean, I don't do a lot to help them out. I think after my booking in the first half, they did a lot more to help me out. I think their communication is great. Positioning was pretty spot on the whole time. They won pretty much everything in the year. I think me seeing how well Nico did against Salt Lake from the sideline last week was kind of helped me get a better understanding of how he plays, and obviously they've taken on all the information from Eric so well, and they've been super solid, and we're definitely were today as well.
What was your argument on the PK?
I I don't know. I think it was like the PK and then my yellow card as well. I think that I don't know his name, but the guy for New York City, I think um he embellishes contact a bit, so he's knows where I am, and so I think as soon as the penalty's given, when I think it's pretty 50-50, and I know there's a little bit of contact, but I know that it's tough to overturn that when there is like a little bit of contact. So I was just frustrated that it was given in the first instance, but I'll probably need to watch it back so I can be honest with myself. It's probably not a situation where I need to get that close. I think he's probably hitting away from goal. So um, yeah, I could probably be a little bit better.
Did you get the ball?
Um, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked close.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys, yeah, probably seen it better than I have, but it was, yeah, everything happened pretty quickly. But yeah, you'll have to tell me.
Do you feel like there's something the team needs to do differently when they're trying to protect a second half lead?
Um, I think there's times when we get a little bit too comfortable when we get our wing backs a bit too deep, and then that makes it harder for our for Joaquin, Robin, and Tanny and Calvin to kind of get the ball and let us get out of that defensive shape. I think if we were able to even connect 3-4 passes and go from one side to the other where there's a bit more space, then um, obviously keeping the ball is a lot better way to defend our lead than what we did for the last 30, 40 minutes today. Um, so we're aware of that, and we just, yeah, that's something we need to work on.
Was Dane up to any mind games before that PK? Looked like he kind of got in Alonso, talked to him.
Uh,
Alonso kind of smirked
yeah,
over anything
I
he
think
saw.
he had a few words for him. I think you're gonna have to ask him exactly what, but um, Dane, full of confidence. I think he's anytime he probably wants me to give up more penalties so he gets chances to save them because he backs himself that much in pens, and you love it when you've got a confident keeper behind you.
I'm good.
Yep, works for me. Thanks, Boxy.
All right, awesome.
Thanks,
Have a good
Boxy.
day, guys.
Thanks,
Take care.
Michael. Safe travels.
Thanks.
All right. Rachel, Daisy, Ansley, John, and Annie, that will do it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take care. See you guys next week.
See ya.